How are you feeling? You got John Riggs here, and a great day in video game history as a new NES prototype has been found and safely preserved. And I'm not talking about somebody found a cartridge and dumped the ROM. I'm not talking about someone found a bunch of EEPROMs and put them together and found the game that way. I'm not talking about some programmer had a game's ROM on their hard drive from back in the day and the ROM was still on there. That would be far too easy. What happened was the Video Game History Foundation came across a bunch of these, a ton of them, and there are bits and pieces of the game on these that they had to kind of put them all together back in order to come up with this. And I know what you're thinking, we already have a Days of Thunder for the NES, and you're right, but this one is a completely different version made by a completely different team. This is the version that has never been mentioned in any magazine. No gameplay footage has ever been shown. No screenshots shared on any platform. And in this video, we're going to show some gameplay footage. I want to share with you the story, because the story is everything. It's a fantastic story. I'll let you know how you can purchase one of these for yourself for a great cause. And at the end of the video, I'll showcase just some raw footage, no commentary, just so you can see what it looks like as if you were playing it for yourself. You can listen to the music too and everything like that. So the Days of Thunder game that we got, well, it wasn't a terrible game. You drive as if you're driving in one of these races, right? Looks cool, looks decent. Looks like it should for an NES. You can pull off and do the pit maneuvering to change out your tires, gas up your vehicle. This part's a little awkward, but you know, it got the job done for this game. But the newly discovered Chris Oberth's version of Days of Thunder, and this is the first time video footage has ever been shown ever. You have to select which car you think is best for which track. You have to do a first-person perspective qualifying lap, and the higher you qualify on the list, the farther up in the pack you'll be. Then it goes to kind of a side view driving, and this one's kind of fun. It actually features like centrifugal force, like when you're going around the corner, so you have to like really, really aim yourself, really center yourself out. And probably my favorite feature of this entire game is the pit stop, where you have to rotate the D-pad counterclockwise and then clockwise, all while pushing the A and B buttons to gas up your vehicle, and that's a lot of fun. Now, I should put out there that I had nothing to do with finding the game, resourcing the game, putting the game's ROM back together, as if I would even know how to do that in the first place. I had nothing to do with it outside of doing this video. Kind of the project coordinator, Kristen, gave me a call and said, like, hey, we found something, we know it's right up your alley, and we'd like you to do a video on it. And I'm all about that, because I'm just such a fan of projects like this. Now, the quick version of the story is Chris Oberth was the programmer behind this game. He kept all of his backups on old hard drives down in the basement, but his family contacted the Video Game History Foundation. Unfortunately, Chris passed away several years ago, and they wanted to see if there's any part of his collection that they could sell to help pay some bills. Now, Chris has several credits to his name on several video games, a lot of them on like the Apple II, there's even a Commodore 64 game, even American Gladiators for the NES he helped out with. And I didn't even know until this was brought to my attention, but Retro Gaming Times had an interview with Chris, and he even mentioned that he did the unreleased version of Days of Thunder. So could Days of Thunder be part of this mass of these? Well, as it turns out, mostly. At least enough to make a playable game. Again, a lot more to the story is linked in the description below, but there are several of these that had his hard drive backups on there. So they had to compile them, even sourcing like old antiquated technology to get these games to work again. It's not just a needle in a haystack. It's several haystacks, and in each one, there's little bits of needles that they're trying to discover and then put them together to form a complete needle. That's how insane this project is. Rich Whitehouse was called in to help kind of find out what's going on or what code does what or what's going on there. I mean, it's a, like I said, the story is everything to the discovery of this game. So, how does the game play? Well, I'll be honest with you, I honestly prefer this version to the version we got. Again, you start the game by selecting which car you think is best for each track. Depending on the track, you select which car you want to use, so like, loose would be better for like the long straightaways, but if you do a lot of turnings, maybe something that's, really tight to control. You get to do your qualifying lap, and I thought this looked really good. I thought this looked really cool for the NES. In the qualifying lap, you're not racing against anyone right now. You're just seeing how fast you can make it around the track. You can kind of see how it pulls one way and pulls the other way. You just have to kind of center yourself out as best you can. It just looks fun, man. It just looks super fun. Now, you do have a damage meter, so you got to watch out for that. The more you hit other cars, the more you hit the wall. If you're damaged all the way, the race stops, and then you just move on to the next one and earn no money. When you go around the bins, it kind of pulls you in one direction, so you kind of like got an easier way to it the other way, and you just got to center yourself out. It gets pretty intense. And in the first few laps, you don't need to use the pit stop for any reason, but when you get to those later levels, you will absolutely have to. And that's the funnest part for me because, again, with the D-pad, you gotta rotate it counterclockwise, then rotate it clockwise to put the tire back on while the A and B buttons are moving back and forth to get the gas pumped in there. As soon as you're done, you just hit the button, you're back in the race. Again, full uncommentary footage at the end of this video. Now, if anyone else was going through video game collections and they saw like a bunch of these that were kind of mislabeled and they popped them in, there's just some random code on there, they probably just would have tossed them and not have thought anything about it. The Video Game History Foundation knew there was gold on there, and they went through the trouble and the efforts to find what there was, and because of that, we have something like this. This game wouldn't have been made possible without the efforts of the Video Game History Foundation. If you have any stacks of these laying around from your uncle who used to work for a video game company, or maybe you have a prototype laying around that you want to have dumped and preserved, make sure you hit up the Video Game History Foundation on Twitter. Their DMs are open. And you can also support the Video Game History Foundation by joining them on Patreon. I donate a humble yet sincere $5 a month. So the question, of course, is how can you play it? Well, because the family hit up the Video Game History Foundation to see if they could sell anything to help pay for some bills, that's when all these other people got together and said, you know, we found this game that people might want to have, and even contacted This Room is an Illusion to come up with a CIB copy of said game. So to support the cause, this game is available for sale through This Room is an Illusion. You can check a link in the description below. They do quality, legit work on their CIB games, and all proceeds directly benefit the family of Chris Oberth. Now, if you just want to play the ROM and people are going to ask, where's the ROM? It will be available soon. The ROM will be public very soon. But as of right now, for the charity and the benefit of supporting the family of Chris Oberth, these copies are available for sale in the description below. Gonna do an unboxing, gonna show you some more footage right afterwards. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching. Again, a great day for video game history. I can't believe we're seeing games like this still today. Again, if you had a family member or like a dad or grandpa or something like that that used to work for a video game company that may have gold, they may have stuff laying around that needs to be preserved, you hit up the Video Game History Foundation. They will help you out for sure. So again, quality work right here. Even has that weird, whatever that thing's called, whatever that fold is called. The back of the game features that, and a little inscription too. I'll read it for you. It's Days of Thunder as you've never seen it before. This is the original Days of Thunder for the NES. This game was created internally by Mindscape and was quietly canceled in 1990. Replaced by a completely different version of the game made by Beam Software in Australia. This version of the game was never seen by the public, never shown at a trade show, and never previewed by a magazine. Outside of the staff at Mindscape, it's likely that nobody ever played this game before. In 1990, the game was archived by its late co-creator, Chris Oberth, on a set of floppy disks kept in his personal archives. 30 years later, those disks were discovered by his family, and using Microsoft's original development tools, the game was rebuilt. All proceeds from the sale of this cartridge directly benefit the family of Chris Oberth. How many games nowadays come with instruction manuals? Well, this one does. Basic instruction manual, just kind of tells you what the controls are. And the game itself, man, what a beaut. I love it. Man, fantastic. All right, we're going to pop this in. I'm going to stop talking. You enjoy the music. You enjoy the gameplay. Feel free to take screen caps of the gameplay. Feel free to, share this around. To do whatever you want to do, man. This is a piece of video game history. And keep in mind, I suck at racing games. So keep that in mind, all right?
You